Some places were never meant to be abandoned, but when they were, well, they didn't just sit quietly. They became something else entirely. Abandoned hospitals where the walls remember every scream, ghost towns where entire populations vanished overnight, and decaying buildings that seem to breathe when no one's looking. Whether it's whispers from the past or something far more sinister, these places carry a weight that makes even skeptics uneasy. Locals won't go near them, and the few who do, they either leave in a panic or never leave at all. But not every abandoned place is haunted. Some are terrifyingly deadly for entirely different reasons. From crumbling structures ready to collapse to sites laced with toxic chemicals, these locations are just as dangerous as any ghost story. So, whether you believe in the paranormal or just don't want to end up on a missing persons list, here are 15 abandoned places you should never step foot in. Number 15. Bhangarh Fort, India. In a country packed with ancient ruins, Bhangarh Fort stands out as the one place even the Indian government won't mess with. Built in the 17th century, this once thriving fortress now sits in eerie silence, a casualty of a sorcerer's curse. The legend? A creepy wizard fell for Princess Ratnavati and tried to trick her with a love potion. She saw through his nonsense, tossed the potion, and, plot twist, it crushed him to death via boulder. But not before he cursed Bhangarh, dooming its entire population to violent deaths. Flash forward centuries later, and visitors report eerie whispers, shadowy figures, and an unshakable feeling that something is watching them. Even in 2025, the Indian government enforces a strict rule: no one enters after dark. Locals? Well, they won't go near it at any hour. If a place is so haunted that even the authorities won't let you explore, maybe take the hint. But as they say, you can't tell anyone what you saw after 6 p.m. Number 14. Hoya Forest, Romania. If you ever wondered where nightmares take their vacations, well, it's probably Hoya Forest. Nicknamed the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania, this place is the ultimate paranormal hotspot. For starters, people disappear here. Some come back days or even years later with no memory of where they've been. One girl vanished as a child, only to return 5 years later wearing the exact same clothes, not having aged a day. Those who pass through without vanishing report bizarre physical symptoms: rashes, burns, nausea, as if something doesn't want them there. And then, there are the UFOs. Yep, glowing orbs have been spotted floating above the trees for decades, and some visitors have claimed to see shadowy figures darting through the woods. The trees themselves grow in unnatural, twisted shapes, some eerily resembling faces. And let's not ignore the burnt-out ritual sites, animal bones, and occult symbols scattered around the forest. Visit if you dare, but don't expect your phone's GPS to work. Number 13. Lawang, Sewu, Indonesia. Lawang, Sewu has all the ingredients of a modern horror movie: eerie colonial architecture, a very dark past, and a cast of ghosts you don't want to meet. Originally built as a railway headquarters by the Dutch, it took a terrifying turn when the Japanese invaded during World War II. The once proud building became a site of unspeakable torture, with prisoners beheaded in the basement and countless others executed on sight. Even after the war, this place refused to let go of its past. Visitors report sightings of headless ghosts roaming the halls, a pale woman in a blood-soaked dress lurking in the corridors, and eerie whispers in empty rooms. The Indonesian government has tried really hard to rebrand Lawang Sewu as a historical landmark, even using it as a filming location for TV dramas. But let's be real, no one's forgetting its haunted reputation. You can visit, sure, but don't be surprised if something follows you home. Number 12. Eastern State Penitentiary, USA. America has plenty of haunted places, but Eastern State Penitentiary takes solitary confinement to a whole new level. Opened in 1829, this was the world's first true penitentiary, designed to break inmates through isolation. But it worked a little too well. Prisoners spent years locked in tiny pitch-black cells with zero human contact. If they left their cells, they had to wear suffocating hoods to prevent even a glimpse of another person. And that was just routine. Punishments included freezing water baths in the dead of winter, being strapped to a chair so tightly that circulation was cut off, sometimes requiring amputations, and the infamous iron gag, a device that tore prisoners' mouths apart if they so much as moved. Among its famous residents, Al Capone, who reportedly spent his sentence haunted by a ghost. In 2025, the prison operates as a museum, but visitors still report eerie whispers, phantom footsteps, and the occasional shadowy figure lurking in the cells. If you visit, just know, some of these inmates never really left. Number 11. Diplomat Hotel, Philippines. Despite its name, the Diplomat Hotel wasn't a luxury retreat for high-profile diplomats. Instead, it became the backdrop for some of the most horrific war crimes in Philippine history. Originally built by Dominican friars, it was later occupied by the Japanese army during World War II. What followed was sheer brutality. Prisoners and refugees were tortured, executed, and worse, leaving a permanent stain on the building's past. As the war ended, part of the structure was bombed by the U.S., leaving it in ruins. A few decades later, an ambitious hotel chain took over, turning it into an upscale establishment. That was until the owner died, and with him, the business. The hotel shut down for good, but the ghosts, they never checked out. Now a hotspot for ghost hunters and filmmakers, the Diplomat Hotel remains eerily silent, except for the occasional sound of disembodied whispers and shadowy figures caught lurking in the hallways. Number 10. Agrasen ki Baoli, India. Agrasen ki Baoli is the kind of place that lures you in with its stunning architecture, but leaves you questioning your sanity. Located in Delhi, this ancient stepwell has no official records of its origin, adding to its mystery. Experts believe it was built as a water reservoir, but over time, it became infamous for something far more chilling. Visitors have reported gut-wrenching noises echoing through the well, even though it's been dry for decades. But the real horror? The apparition of a young woman in a red sari, her face partially burned, appeared in the shadows. Some claim she's a lost soul tied to the well's murky past. While modern tourism has toned down its reputation as a paranormal hotspot, locals still refuse to go near it after dark. Whether it's ancient spirits, eerie acoustics, or just a well-designed psychological trap, Agrasen ki Baoli is not for the faint-hearted. Number 9. Erdstall Tunnels, Europe. Running beneath vast stretches of Europe, the Erdstall tunnels are one of the greatest historical mysteries. No one knows exactly who built them, why they exist, or what their purpose was. These passageways, barely wide enough to squeeze through, have been speculated to be medieval hideouts, escape routes, or even prisons for supernatural entities. Some historians suggest they were used for spiritual rituals, while others believe they were safe havens for robbers or outlaws. Creepiest of all? Many of the tunnels are completely sealed off, and the ones that have been explored end in inexplicable dead ends. With no ventilation, no signs of prolonged human activity, and no written records. These tunnels are an archaeological enigma. While parts of the labyrinth are open for tourism, the deeper, uncharted sections remain off-limits. Given the eerie silence and pitch-black corridors, maybe it's best they stay that way. Number 8. Trivail Forest, Romania. Deep in Romania, Trivail Forest hides a gruesome tale of love, greed, and revenge. The legend goes that a wealthy nobleman arranged for his daughter to marry an old man to expand his fortune. The daughter, already in love with a servant, ran away with him. In a fit of rage, the nobleman tracked them down, brutally murdered the servant in front of her, and then decapitated his own daughter. Since then, a headless figure has been spotted wandering the forest, forever trapped in a loop of despair. Some who've entered the woods claim to have fled in terror, only to find themselves facing the same entity again, as if the forest itself was playing tricks on them. Adding to its eerie reputation, Trivail has become a gathering place for occult rituals. Disturbing artifacts, animal carcasses, and cryptic symbols have been found deep within its shadows. Whether ghost or something far worse, one thing's certain: you don't want to be here after dark. Number 7. Council House of Enfield, England. If you've seen The Conjuring 2, you already know about this house. The infamous Enfield poltergeist case turned this ordinary council house into Britain's most terrifying home. In the late 1970s, 2 young sisters living here became the unwilling targets of a relentless supernatural force. At first, it was just chairs moving on their own. Then, beds started shaking violently, objects were thrown across the room, and a guttural, demonic voice began speaking through one of the girls. Paranormal investigators, including the legendary Ed and Lorraine Warren, documented the events, with some even capturing the ghostly activity on tape. Skeptics have debated whether it was a hoax, but those who lived through it swear it was real. Today, the house still stands, though the current residents prefer to stay out of the spotlight. Haunted or not, no one's rushing to move in anytime soon. Number 6. Hovrinskaya Hospital, Russia. If hospitals weren't unsettling enough, Hovrinskaya takes it to another level. Built in the shape of a biohazard symbol, this abandoned Moscow hospital has become the stuff of urban legend. Construction began in the 1980s, but funding mysteriously dried up, leaving the hospital half-finished and eerily vacant. Rumors spread that it was taken over by a satanic cult, using its decaying halls for rituals. Some say police eventually raided the place, only to leave behind something worse, a dark force that now prowls the ruins. Graffiti-covered walls, collapsing floors, and the sheer oppressive silence make Hovrinskaya a magnet for thrill-seekers. But many who visit claim to hear whispers, feel unseen hands pushing them, or see shadowy figures lurking in the corridors. The city plans to demolish it, but locals believe whatever lurks inside won't go quietly. Number 5. Kuldhara, India. A ghost town with a curse? Sounds like a horror movie, but Kuldhara is very real, and if you don't believe us, you can visit it. Located near the Indo-Pak border, this village was once home to the prosperous Paliwal Brahmins. Then, one night in the 19th century, they vanished, every single one of them, leaving behind empty homes and an unsettling silence. According to legend, the village head's daughter caught the eye of a corrupt minister. When he threatened to take her by force, the villagers chose to abandon their home rather than submit. But before they left, they cursed Kuldhara, ensuring that no one would ever live there again. Centuries later, the village remains uninhabited. Paranormal investigators have documented strange activity, from eerie footsteps to sudden temperature drops. Whether it's ghostly energy or just a place swallowed by history, Kuldhara stands as one of India's most unnerving abandoned locations. Number 4. Buzludzha Monument, Bulgaria. If aliens ever needed a secret base, they'd probably pick the Buzludzha Monument. Perched on a mountaintop in Bulgaria, this futuristic UFO-shaped structure was once a grand communist symbol, built by nearly 6,000 workers to glorify the regime. But after the fall of the Soviet Union, the monument was abandoned, and time has not been kind to it. Once filled with lavish mosaics and intricate architecture, it now stands in eerie decay, its once proud hammer and sickle emblem rusting away. The Bulgarian government, struggling with financial constraints, never repaired it, leaving it to nature and the occasional thrill-seeker. Graffiti covers the crumbling walls, and the wind howls through its shattered windows, making it sound like the voices of a forgotten era still echo inside. Despite being officially closed, adventurers still sneak in to explore this eerie relic. Whether it's an abandoned dream or a post-apocalyptic nightmare, Buzludzha remains one of Europe's most haunting lost landmarks. Number 3. Molodiozhnaya, Antarctica. Antarctica is already one of the most uninhabitable places on Earth, but Molodiozhnaya takes that isolation to another level. This abandoned Soviet research station once played a crucial role in space exploration, serving as a launch pad for over 1,000 rocket tests. That is until things started going very, very wrong. After a series of catastrophic failures, including rockets crashing straight into the base, Molodiozhnaya became more of a liability than an asset. Add to that the collapse of the Soviet Union, and the station was quickly left to freeze in silence. Today, only a handful of researchers are granted permission to use its remnants, but most of it remains abandoned, a frozen relic of Cold War ambitions. Buried in ice and battered by brutal winds, this ghost station feels like a place where time has stopped. It's Antarctica's forgotten frontier, left behind in the endless winter. Number 2. Varosha, Cyprus. Varosha was once a thriving Mediterranean paradise, packed with 5-star hotels, beaches, and a bustling nightlife. That all changed in 1974 when Turkey invaded Cyprus, forcing residents to flee overnight. One day, the city was alive. The next, it was completely deserted. For decades, time stood still here. Expensive cars rusted in driveways, restaurants remained set for dinner service, and shops still displayed mannequins in 70s fashion. But behind the eerie silence, Varosha became something more sinister, an off-limits military zone controlled by Turkey, guarded by armed forces, and surrounded by barbed wire. Recently, some areas of Varosha have been reopened to the public, but much of the city remains frozen in time. Whether it's a war relic or a ghost town waiting for its people to return, one thing is certain: Varosha is a city that history refuses to let go of. Number 1. Fort Drum, Philippines. Nicknamed the Concrete Battleship, Fort Drum was an unbreakable military stronghold, until the day it became a death trap. Originally built by the U.S. on a rocky outcrop in Manila Bay, this heavily armed fortress was designed to withstand anything. It had anti-aircraft guns, reinforced walls, and enough firepower to obliterate enemy fleets. But when Japanese forces took over during World War II, the U.S. found a brutal way to reclaim it. Instead of launching a traditional attack, they sealed all the exits and pumped the fort full of fuel before setting it ablaze. The inferno raged for days, trapping and incinerating hundreds of Japanese soldiers inside. Today, Fort Drum is an eerie shell of its former self. Fishermen and explorers report hearing ghostly echoes from within its walls, whispers of the doomed soldiers still trapped inside. It remains a chilling reminder of war's darkest moments, abandoned yet never truly empty. If you have found this video interesting, please like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.